Okay, here's the gauge cluster on the 2007 BMW X3. When you put your ignition key in and you turn it to the first couple clicks, first click is kind of an accessory mode. Second click is basically an engine systems check or a vehicle systems check. If you think about the fact that you've got sensors all over the vehicle, engine sensors, drivetrain sensors, and you've also got body and chassis sensors and transmission sensors, essentially the computers kind of take attendance. They run through a system check and they clarify if all the sensors are reporting in, just like the way a teacher takes attendance. You know, is this student here? Is this student here? Is this student here? And then if a sensor doesn't report, then you get a light on the dashboard, a notification light that you got a problem with that sensor. Doesn't necessarily mean the sensor's not there, but it might mean that it's not reporting correct data. But that's what's going on. And so you'll notice when you start your vehicle that some of those lights will go out. Hopefully they all go out, which basically means that they've reported and they're conveying information that the computer's happy with. If there's any information that's that the computer's not happy with, if something is outside of the parameters that the vehicle is designed to operate within, then you get lights. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'll turn first key, basically just turns on dashboard cluster lights, and I got a seatbelt light for a second there. And then second click, and here's the Christmas tree. Let me turn my fan speed down a bit. So top left I have battery, and I'm getting a battery light because the engine's not running. So the alternator's not producing any energy, and so the battery's not being charged right now. Top right, that is the universal symbol for oil. And basically my oil pump is not pumping, and my oil pressure gauge or oil pressure system is not measuring oil pressure, again, because the engine's not running. And then the next row down on the left is ABS. That's my anti-lock brake system. And then to the right of that is a brake. I believe that's parking brake. And then the third row down, there's a tire pressure sensor light. Then there's a seatbelt light below that. And then on the bottom left is a light bulb. I happen to have a light bulb burned out on the tailgate. It's a big, wide third brake light that runs across the top of the tailgate hatch. I won't even tell you what BMW wants for it, so I'm trying to find one used. And then within the actual engine cluster there, you can see EML. That's an emissions light. The engine symbol is again an engine light, and then you've got that funny little 4x4 light, and that is traction control. Okay, so let's start the car and see how many of these actually go out. You can see the car is running. Tachometer is up at about 1,000 RPM, just a little over 1,000 because it's a cold start. Now notice that all these lights are still on. Isn't that wonderful? Well, I'll tell you what's going on here is I have a faulty wheel speed sensor, and so the wheel speed sensor is not reporting correctly, and so then we've got a couple of things here. I'll start in the top row there. My anti-lock brake system doesn't work without a wheel speed signal from each wheel, because if it can't figure out how fast the wheel's turning, then it can't actually, you know, do the ABS thing. So I got an ABS light. Along with that, I got a parking brake light, which I'm not really sure why, because as we know, parking brakes are mechanical, and they're not actually connected to the hydraulic system. Below that, the tire pressure light's still on. Now my tire pressures are correct, but the way this vehicle works is it actually uses the wheel speed sensor to detect low tire pressure. And that might sound like a little bit of a mystery to you. I'm going to explain that in a further video, but suffice it to say that that's why that one's on. Seatbelt light's on because I'm not wearing my seatbelt at the moment. The light bulb is still burned out, and here's where it's a little perplexing. The engine light is on, and I don't actually have engine codes right now, but the wheel speed sensor fault triggers an engine light. I have no idea why. That's a BMW mystery to me. Another mystery, by the way, that I'm really not happy about, this vehicle actually has no dipstick on the engine, and more vehicles are going to this. They have an electronic sensor that detects oil level, and you can manually display it. There's a button on the dash down here that you probably can't see because it's really dark, but I'll push it and notice that it's searching for an oil level. And notice as well that there's a little clock symbol right beside it, and that clock symbol is basically meaning that that right now the engine isn't warmed up enough, or there's not enough oil traveled through the motor, or that it hasn't, you know, done its full warm-up cycle to report a correct oil level. Now I've tested this multiple times when the engine is warmed up. In fact, even while I'm in the middle of driving, I can do this, and I'm not getting an oil level, and that has been a problem ever since this engine light's on. So to me, that makes no sense, right? You got an engine light telling you, hey, you got a problem, but then you can't actually check your oil level? Come on, BMW, what's up with that? And then the final light on the right is traction control, and again, traction control doesn't work if your wheel speed sensors are not reporting, because how is the traction control system supposed to apply different amounts of energy to different wheels when it doesn't know how fast they're all moving? So I've got quite a Christmas tree going on here. I can get rid of the seatbelt light real easily. I can get rid of the light bulb light by replacing the burned out bulb, and then the other 5 lights are all connected to one fault. But boy, this sure could give you a heart attack, couldn't it? As it turns out, the vehicle is perfectly drivable. I mean, I would not pass a safety inspection, of course, but it does drive just fine, and the brakes work fine. I just don't have ABS, and I have all the traction in the world because I got all-wheel drive and 4 brand new snow tires, but I don't actually have the function of the traction control computer itself. So I'll be exploring some of this stuff in further videos, but that's what's going on in here. And then we're going to use the code reader to look at what those code faults actually look like.